This is wonderful, wonderful. I had hoped to achieve some level of clarity, and I believe we are on that road. So, every time Ann Coulter attends a CPAC conference, every time she's invited on by a Republican politician, and then you wonder why Latinos and Mexicans might not vote for Republicans or conservatives, as she repeats over and over again, about a dozen times so far, you people come from a peasant culture. You know, when you're peasant maids and all the things.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say peasant culture? Is that right? I think some people have their iPhones out.
I didn't say you people come from a
No, she didn't say you people. She didn't say you people. She said you peasants.
If it's the same, if you're like paraphrasing accurately, if it's the same, just use my words.
Okay. Believe me, your words are now all over the internet.
No, it's not.
Okay. So now you have lamented, even though you claim it's liberals who say Browning, never once said by any liberal. I've seen you quoted 3 times. I have seen you quoted at least 3 times lamenting the Browning of America. How would you like to unbrown us? Would you kick some brown folks in the country out? Would you want to just celebrate whiteness more? What would you like to do as you lament the brownness of the country?
Immigration is a policy we don't have to have. Any government policy ought to be used to serve the people already living here, all the people already living here. That is not the way our immigration policy is being used. It is being used, and I really don't understand whatever side of the spectrum you're on. Unless you are a billionaire who really needs a lot of cheap labor, immigration is a net loss to you. This is what is driving income inequality in this country. This is what is...
No, it's not the bankers. No. It's not the tax cuts from the rich that she pushes. It's not the tax cuts, and it's not all the billions of trillions of dollars given to the bankers. That's not pushing income inequality. It's the most powerless people in the country that have somehow captured the power and are driving income inequality by being so poor.
They are powerless, which is why these bankers and the powerful are bringing in immigrants to compete for their housekeeper's job, not for their job. How about we bring in immigrants?
Yeah, it's the maids that are so powerful in this country in creating income inequality.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They have no power.
I know, that is exactly what you're saying. And it's amazing to me that you don't see how preposterous it sounds. Like, oh, the maids, what they've done to this country. Cleaning here and there.
You took me here for...
Wow, so that was starting to get a little contentious over there, but Cenk the Jank was utilizing a very useful debate tactic, which is kind of, I guess you could say, not too kosher, but listen, everybody does it. Take the other person's words, change them around a little bit, or basically say, oh, in other words, this is what you were saying, and basically try to say a little bit of the opposite of what that person was actually saying. And Ann is trying to basically tell Cenk, wait a minute. Okay, look, if you're going to go ahead and let me speak, let me speak. But if you don't want to and you want to go ahead and put words in my mouth, be my guest. And when Cenk was saying that you don't understand how preposterous it sounds, what you're saying is, I think that people ought to take a look at what Cenk the Jank is saying. That's what sounds preposterous when Ann is saying, yeah, it is the bankers. It is the plutocrats. It is the aristocrats. It is the people at the top, the CEOs in big business that are bringing in thousands upon thousands, or at least want to bring in, or have policies that allow for unfettered immigration to come through because it cheapens the labor source. Absolutely true. And what power do, the maids have? What power do the house cleaners have? What power do the gardeners have? What power do the people that are in those types of custodial type jobs, retail type jobs, what power do they have? They don't. As Ann was saying, they're not bringing in bankers to compete with bankers' jobs or financial advisors to compete with financial advisors' jobs. That's not what they're doing. It's always the people on the bottom rung of the economic ladder. Folks, we're going to continue with this debate, but before we do so, just want to let you know you're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, and we welcome all of you here, where I basically give you my political prescription from my political perspective as to what's going on when culture, science, media, education, Hollywood, religion, and politics collide and come together. Let's get more of the debate and see what Cenk Uygur and Ann have to say.
Like, oh, the maze, what they've done to this country. Bleeding here and there.
Do you need me here for this? Because I think you're just going to mischaracterize everything I say and I'll be halfway through it. Look, it is the tourists who have...
I'd like this again down to 3 to 4 people clapping.
It weren't 3 to 4 people clapping. There's a huge percentage of the audience now that was clapping in terms of what Ann was saying. So I think, again, Cenk Uygur, come on now.
Getting down to 3 or 4 words now. It is the poorest people who are having immigrants come in to compete for their jobs. They are not competing for the bankers' jobs. They are making sure that the bankers have very cheap nannies, maids, pool boys, drivers. Meanwhile, all jobs are being outsourced so that the rich can become even richer. But we have our own poor people, we have our own middle-class people. They're the ones, I think, an immigration policy should be geared to helping. And you're not helping people by pretending the laws of supply and demand don't work when it comes to bringing in workers who are going to compete only with our poorest Americans. Actually, it's moving up into our middle-class Americans with the H-1B visas.
So true. So true.
Computer programmers who their jobs are being taken too. No, it's the very rich who are benefiting from this dump of cheap labor on the country that also happens to be changing the culture. And their maids aren't living in their neighborhoods. You know, they're coming in from the suburbs. They're not seeing what's happening, how the country is changing, and how people are suffering. I say we have an immigration moratorium until our unemployment rate is 0. When it's 0, then we can bring in more workers to compete with America.
A fairly nice size part of the crowd gave some claps there. I mean, you could tell when there's only like a few people clapping, and then you can tell when you've got, you know, a pretty decent size amount basically liking the fact that Ann is saying, you know what, moratorium, just until we get, you know, down to, she says 0% employment. Okay, fine. But you know what, that's a number that we can, negotiate or debate about. But there were people in the audience there that supposedly are on Cenk Uygur's side, but they're clapping for Ann on this.
In other words, fight amongst yourselves while Ann and the Republicans push for more tax cuts for the same people creating income inequality.
I think I'm perfectly capable of speaking for myself, and instead of eventually letting me answer, and then saying, in other words, you people suck is what she's saying. I think they heard what I said.
I know that. I love it.
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly do more damage to you than you.
There was Cenk being a little bit sarcastic, saying, I couldn't possibly be doing more damage to you, than you. I mean, let's continue.
You then have to mischaracterize it in other words.
Do you want tax cuts for the rich? Then speak for yourself. No, speak for yourself. Do you want tax cuts for the rich? Do you want tax cuts for the rich? Do you want tax cuts for the rich? Do you want further tax cuts?
No, I love Trump's tax plan. And where's Hillary? Where's Chuck Schumer? She's been sitting on the finance committee.
True. Good question to ask.
He's showing how both political parties are controlled by the plutocrats, and that no one has come forward all this time to say George Soros and Warren Buffett should pay as much as the middle class does. Donald Trump to say.
All right. Look, again, Politicon working. Trump's tax plan has enormous problems and is giant giveaways for the rich. But she is right that on hedge funds, private equity guys, if you'd like to raise your taxes, we're going to get a deal. I would love to do
Why
that.
hasn't the Republican or especially Democratic Party, which is really beholden to the left on this, they're the ones who get the Wall Street money. Obama got more than anybody else.
In 2008, not in 2012.
Wrong.
Okay, so look, I'll tell you why. It's legalized bribery. It's money in politics. And no one takes, and the Democrats are definitely guilty. You're not going to get me to defend a Democrat on that. But the Republicans, if you haven't noticed, the Republican Party is 99% bought and sold by billionaires and corporations.
Not Donald Trump.
Okay, all right. Okay, you're right. So, I know we want to go to Q&A, we're running a little short on time. You mentioned women before, and that you don't like to mention women's issues, but I just did want to ask one quick question on that, since you did mention it. You say, if we took away women's right to vote, we'd never have to worry about another Democratic president. Actually, you said Democrat president. It's kind of a pipe dream. It's a personal fantasy of mine.
Yeah.
So you would like to take women's right to vote away from them, including your own?
I think it was a rash experiment, and I'm not sure it worked out this women's suffrage business.
Another hyperbole, or like the nukes you kind of mean?
Oh no, I told you that.
Oh, you mean it? Okay. Once again, we have achieved clarity. All the women in the room, she would like to take your right to vote away.
Don't worry, I'm giving up my vote too, but we all give it up. You vote per household.
All right. Okay, clarity. I love the clarity. Okay. I didn't put words in your mouth there, right?
Next question.
All right, great.
So there was some verbal sparring there. You know, Cenk trying to do his thing that he does and fighting back, being bombastic as always, giving Cenk, you know, basically more fodder to continue what he does. But I think she sort of knew that, and then, you know, sparring, verbal jabbing back and forth, making sure that her point was then, I guess, with Cenk renegotiated to the fact that, hey, if you're going to say things about me, then at least, you know, let me say what I want to say instead of you saying in other words and going from there. So, you know, pretty good. Cenk got to do what he gets to do and got to do what she wants to do. Anyways, we thank you for taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You know what to do. Check out our video links above and below. And I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.